Yes! Welcome.
Hello.
All of you. All of you. To Ask the Maester Live. It's the little show where Mallory, Rubin, and I, co-hosts of the Binge Mode podcast here at the Ringer, a great website. Get together Tuesdays, noon Pacific, to answer your questions about Game of Thrones, the most recent episode of Game of Thrones, the series in general, and just, anything that's on your mind. It's kind of like it's like a combination of Q&A and therapy.
A cathartic experience.
It's a cathartic experience. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, stay tuned to The Ringer for all your Game of Thrones coverage needs. We've got Talk the Thrones, which airs after the East Coast airing of Game of Thrones on Twitter, exclusively on Twitter. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. Then we've got all the various columns, reaction columns that come out, the Ask the Maester column, which comes out Tuesdays, and then this Q&A, Binge Mode, which drops anywhere between 3 a.m. and whenever you wake up Thursday morning.
That's right.
And then the pre-cappables.
Yes.
With Riley and Zach. Two wonderful young men just trying to make their way in the world, in this content world.
Two dragons flying free.
Flying free, young dragons who have never been chained and don't understand that this is a cruel world where scorpions fired from a mile away can find your chest with incredible accuracy. Let us begin!
Yeah.
Let's start with a question that I got from my column, which you can read on theringer.com.
Great website.
Great, incredible website. Andy asked, Tyrion mentioning Cersei's pregnancy twice at the gate. Euron had to have heard that, right? How could Tyrion know something that Cersei just told Euron? Euron is going to be suspicious. Double-cross her? Take charge of the Golden Company? Great question.
Indeed.
I don't know. It was a wild one. I kept waiting for Euron to be like, hold on. What? Did he say, how, what? Hold on a second, Cersei. I get some kind of feeling that maybe you can't be trusted. But that never happened. Euron was just happy to be there. And I used the question as a jumping off point to raise another concern that I've noted about pacing. Mm-hmm. Pacing has been a big subject. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly mind the condensing of pacing stuff. Like if Varys needs to go to Essos and then come back in an episode, fine. But that needs to, my position is that the time that is condensed, you need to feel that it has passed.
Right.
There needs to be some kind of constant. It's like when you're traveling through space, you can't go faster than light speed. That's the speed limit. You have to know that there's some kind of constant that's constant through line that's underpinning all this storytelling, or else you're just disoriented. Like off screen, I would imagine, like I'm imagining Dany's fleet, like literally just zooming across the water with like huge tidal waves flying off the sides because they're going so fast.
Right. You want Cersei to be planning a baby shower at this point.
Right. And so this is my point. Cersei has been pregnant since midway through the season sometime, previous season 7. She began talking about it, touching her stomach, talking to Jaime about it. That means that the things that have happened since then, which include the bad plan and rescue, the meeting at the Dragon Pit, Dany marching all of her forces north.
Yeah.
Battle of Winterfell.
To be fair, the battle was quite brief. The long night was literally one longish night.
Gathering up all the dead and making the funeral pyres and stacking all that up.
Whispering into Jorah's ear.
Euron going to Essos.
Yep.
Picking up all of the Golden Company. Picking up all of the Golden Company and then bringing them back.
Yeah. All the bigger crossbow construction.
Bigger crossbow. They like put in an order to the Foxconn factory in China, and they got those just shipped out.
Built a new part of King's Landing.
All of that stuff has taken place because Cersei's not showing in less than 3 months. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like I'm fine with condensing stuff, but there has to be some kind of, you have to feel that time has passed.
Yeah. My thing with Euron in particular, not saying, wait, what, is like, on the one hand, for all the reasons you just outlined, tough to swallow. On the other hand, I've never considered Euron one of the world's great thinkers or logicians, and we have to remember that part of the pregnancy plot at this point is that Cersei duped him in the first place into thinking that it's his baby. He's easily fooled. He's usually focused on other things.
Still.
Maybe he thinks that Qyburn told Tyrion while they were parlaying hand to hand before.
Weird thing to bring up in the middle of a summit.
I mean,
meeting.
it's very strange. I also think that in the context of this episode, it was about the 87th thing on the list of puzzling choices. So
one more thing. When are we going to let go of, no, but you have a redeeming quality, you care about your children? When are we going to let that go? You know, like, when is that just going to, how does that somehow supersede all of the things she's done? Well, she loves her kids. I know she blew up, I don't know, 2,000 people at the Sept of Baelor. But she really loved Tommen and Joffrey, another monster.
It was a tough sell the first time. Yeah. But after that resulted in Cersei betraying the bulk of humanity and not sending her forces to join the living in the fight against the army of the dead, pretty tough to return to that well.
Have to say, Cersei, is she the only one that's like actually playing the Game of Thrones correctly? Win or you die? She's done all the smart stuff.
Well, if that's true, why doesn't she just kill everybody while they're standing right there?
That's the crazy. The dragon's on the ground.
Drogon is sitting there. Dany inexplicably brings him to just rest on the sand after she just lost Rhaegal. He is easily within bigger crossbow range, are they all.
She's there with like 40 unsullied.
Right, and so the only real rationale for Cersei not just killing them all right there is, well, she needs to make sure that the people of King's Landing know that she acted with some sort of honor? Since when has Cersei cared about that? She blew up a house of worship.
Yeah, she's been fucking her brother, and not that long ago she was like, I don't care if everybody knows
it. When you play the Game of Thrones, she told Ned, you win or you die, there is no middle ground. The person who thinks that and believes that and has acted in the fashion that Cersei has throughout the entire course of the show kills all of those people right then and there.
That was a hot bar that Cersei spit back in the day. YouTube, let's go to YouTube. Here, this one kind of plays into what we're talking about. Chris asks, if Dany burns the Red Keep and slaughters innocents to defeat her enemies, does that make her any different than Cersei blowing up the Sept and slaughtering innocents to defeat her enemies? It's a philosophical question. What do you think, Mallory Rubin?
Well, that seems to be certainly where the story's going at this point. And it is, I'm fascinated to see how the last 2 episodes of the season go. Yeah. In this respect in particular, because I think, we talked about this on Talk of Thrones last week, actually. I do think that the story in the show has done a pretty deft job of positioning either outcome for Dany.
Right.
That she is the just ruler and liberator, or that it could swing and they could take her on this Mad Queen arc. I think that getting to the point right now where the advisors, who are the people who have often led her astray, are the ones who now say, how about just a touch of the treason, though, because this person can't be trusted, before they get to the point where she's doing this, that's a tougher sell.
Right.
Because if Dany had committed these atrocities, or if it had been a subtler thing where we as viewers and the characters in the world had to assess with nuance the moral ambiguity of the choices that she made, that's like a pretty compelling storytelling choice. If all of a sudden she just becomes a mass murderer, then we say, well, yeah, then maybe they have no choice but to turn on her. That's not really who Dany is, though. She has acted in terrifying fashion often, but it has been with a desire to bring goodness into the world. I hope they don't lose sight of that part of her character.
And rarely against, and I'm struggling to really think of one where it was like unwarranted, rarely against a person or a figure or a group of people who didn't, quote, have it coming in some kind of way, who didn't traffic in violence and power games. I would also say this, that So let's say that the first part of your question is true, that Dany burns the Red Keep and slaughters innocents in order to defeat Cersei and stuff, and that is the thing that pushes Varys and Tyrion and Jon to some level.
Right. I mean, Varys is there already, so
Varys
it feels
is
like it's
there
about Tyrion and really Jon.
Here's my issue with that, is Varys right now is participating in one of the most nefarious gaslighting campaigns ever. All Dany has done for 2 seasons is everything that her advisors asked her to do. Everything that they asked her specifically to do. Don't be the Queen of the Ashes. Don't burn the city. Let's split our forces and do this really overly complicated plan. Let's go capture a White. Let's go to the north and fight these ice zombies. And now, when it's all starting to go, let's trust Cersei. She's gonna send her forces. Meanwhile, it's all the political maneuvering that she hired Varys and Tyrion to do, they didn't do. There was no outreach to these other houses that you would imagine. You would imagine that the Lannisters have a lot of enemies, especially in the Westerlands. Who is sending out emissaries to be like, hey, you want to help us against Cersei? You want to rise up against Cersei? You can have Casterly Rock. That's yours if you help us.
Very emblematic, the moment and the post-funeral celebration feast before it just turned into a rampant fuckfest was when anybody know who has Storm's End? Anyone? Does anyone know what's going on in the Stormlands? Anyone know any of the people who are literally here in my employ to advise me and understand what's happening in the realm? No one knew. There's not information.
It's a great point. That should have been the fact that Dany just did that on her own and Tyrion was like, whoa.
Right.
What a wise move. Why didn't you suggest that, you fucking, what are you doing? You and Varys should have suggested that, I don't know, going by Cersei's pregnancy a month ago, but still, that's why you guys are there, to think up stuff like that. And it hasn't been happening, and now all she's done, again, is do exactly what they wanted, and because of that, they're like, oh man, she's out of control. Right. A little out of control. It's just a nefarious gaslighting campaign, and I reject it. Let's see. How about, this is going to be a popular one, so let's get it out of the way. YouTube. Jacob, now that Jaime left Brienne in her bathrobe, crying in the yard of Winterfell in her housecoat, asking a one-handed dude, where are you going? That was tough. Now that Jaime left Brienne and is returning to Cersei in King's Landing, what's the odds on the Valonqar curse coming true? Mallory Rubin, you love the Valonqar curse, as do I.
Yeah.
You love Jaime Lannister, as do I.
Wow, you almost slipped into the past tense there.
I don't.
Oh God!
I don't know what he's doing.
I'm still not quite capable of speaking about this without just lapsing into a puddle of tears. I'm really still processing this, and much like how they resolved Dany's arc, I think the resolution of Jaime's arc is going to be one of the things that we look at not only when we assess this penultimate episode, the finale, if Jaime makes it that far, I doubt he will, this season, but the series as a whole, and what the messages of the story were. I'm still struggling with this.
Yeah,
I really am. I think with the Valonqar aspect in particular, so there are two, there's a spectrum, but there are really primarily two possibilities still in play. One, Jaime intends to kill Cersei and knows that he cannot become the man that he wants to be and that Brienne wants him to be until he rids himself and the world of this presence. That's one possibility. Didn't feel like that.
It really
in the
did
episode.
not feel like that.
What it felt like
he's going to protect her.
Is that this pull of the one constant in his life is sucking him back in one more time. And that one more time is going to be the last time. What did he say? Wants to die in the arms of the woman he loved. It was really, really nice to think that could have been Brienne.
She sucked him in season 7 too.
I do think Jaime loves Brienne. I know what I get it. It's a blowjob joke, folks. But loving them both does not mean that he can just erase Cersei.
Thank you.
From his life. And it's time to just remind ourselves that the Valonqar prophecy, as attached as we all are to it, as fiercely as we have believed that Jaime would be the little brother, the younger sibling to fulfill it, that the Valonqar prophecy has never been mentioned on the show. And for a long time, it seemed like that was because it was such a tell that they couldn't put it on or we would all figure it out. And now maybe it seems like it's because they're not going to do it, or at least not going to do it in that way. Plenty of other younger siblings out there who could fulfill it. I right now see Jaime and Cersei dying in each other's arms together. I really would love to be wrong. What about you?
I would love to see it too. I would like to, this is a point I made on Talk the Thrones about fan service, which is a thing that has alternately been used to both praise and chide the show. When the show gives fans, the audience, something that they've clearly wanted for a while, such as Jaime and Brienne hooking up finally after all these years. I don't have a problem with that, particularly. What I have a problem with
I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. You were like, you were in a full lather.
I really was.
The air of disappointment that you put off when they didn't show like the full-on explicit Game of Thrones full frontal scene.
I wanted all of it.
Was shocking.
I played out the scene in full in my mind, I promise.
You don't have to promise it. We know. We know you did. Anyway. Anyway, what was I saying? So, my issue with the I do think that I think that the Jaime Brienne interlude threatens to veer into the negative form of fan service if, in fact, Jaime is going back to King's Landing to protect Cersei, because like what purpose did it serve then? You know, then it's just like a thing. I would make the case that it feels just tacked on then. Here's a thing that fans will like. Put that in there. And then we'll just return Jaime to the path that he was on before all of this other evolution, before he, in heart-wrenching fashion, rode away from King's Landing, you know, like the snowflakes landing on his metal hand. We're just going to act like all of that was just like a whatever, and now he's back on the path of I put babies in catapults.
I think that like so many of the other things that viewers are struggling with and wrestling with this season, the ultimate answer to that question is going to come from whether the characters themselves grapple with that, and whether there is time for it. Because you could ultimately sell it. You can sell almost any plot development if the time and care is devoted to exploring it with deliberate intent and in a way that honors the arcs and the time that we've spent with these characters so far. Maybe Jaime had to go all the way to exploring a different kind of life to realizing that that isn't who he is, or that he doesn't think he's worthy of happiness. Like the idea of Jaime ultimately getting a taste of something else and saying, this isn't what I deserve.
Yeah.
I could see that. Sure. I could accept that, actually.
I need 2 seasons for that to play out.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because one of the formative messages of the show is that your choices matter and that people can change. And if ultimately one of the messages for a lot of the central characters is that actually it's ultimately about your nature and that your nature is fixed, that's a really different message, and one that is actually also extremely powerful, but that you need time to explore.
Wisdom again from Mallory Rubin.
I had a dream after the episode the other night that Jaime and
hold
Brienne...
on.
Whoa.
No, it's very sweet. I had a dream that they got a cottage together and that they had 2 babies. I haven't been sleeping well.
I haven't been sleeping, just like... I would love to just see that. Brienne is the one who gets all the stuff off the high shelves.
Oh my God, I just love Jaime and Brienne so much. I really do.
Let's go to Twitch. Meep, the Meepster, Steph Snowden, relaying a question from the great KC, Kevin Clark. Who has the best drip fit on the entire show? KC thinks Bran. It's Jaime all the time.
Oh my God.
Jaime's got the drip. First of all, my dude has a golden hand. Is that not the most like pimpish thing that anybody on the show has? He's got a hand made of gold.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. I thought Cersei looked resplendent in this episode.
She's doing too much.
Back in the colors.
Yeah,
livening it up. No,
that's a little too much.
What about Sansa's whole vibe this season?
I really dig the
wrapped
emo,
leather.
Fuck yeah. Sorry. I'm really digging like the emo Sansa, the wrapped, the bodice with like
it's great.
With like the dark colors, and it's good. But I'm gonna go Jaime. Jaime's jackets from what was that, season 5? Were just like off the chains.
Special.
He shows up at like on the beach to rope Bronn into the Mission of Dorne with like a $2,000 like veal jacket made from like the hearts of infant cows.
Oh God.
Anyway,
I always thought it was made from the essence of Han Solo.
I know.
You know.
Also, when Tyrion goes to talk to Bran at the feast. And by the way, I actually don't think we're going to get that weird conversation paid off now. I think
there's a terrifying possibility for how we might.
Oh, great. Anyway, let's not talk about it now.
Okay.
So when Tyrion goes to talk to Bran, who's sitting by the fire, and they talk about that time that Tyrion designed that saddle for Bran after his accident so he could ride again. And he looks at the wheelchair and he's like, this is even better than the saddle I designed for you. No, it's not. With the saddle, you could ride a horse. Like, hold on a second. It's a wheelchair. No shots at that. But like, that's better engineering than this like whole saddle thing that like kept him upright and stable and balanced so that he could like control a horse and ride it. And the horse, like, there's so much more stuff involved. And he's like, yeah, that chair is better than the saddle I made. What?
As Andy said on the watch, hadn't gotten to see bigger crossbow yet, so he'll be impressed with that. But I don't listen to the watch anymore because Andy slandered Ghost. So.
What did he say?
I can't bring myself to speak it aloud.
Oh my God.
I'm coming for you, Andy.
Wow. Let's jump back to Periscope. Here's one we love talking about, Jimmy. Any chance we see Dario bring in reinforcements for Dany's fight against Cersei?
Wearing my Dario shirt today, my Super Dario brothers.
Super Dario brothers. Let me see that
my
lady.
Sweet Jorah over
lady
here.
dagger?
He does. He actually does. He's holding it right here.
Princess Peach dagger.
Dario.
Well, what do you think?
I think it's too late now.
Yeah,
I thought that if it was, I actually thought it really might happen in this episode, in episode 4, because it seemed like just a ton of people in Dany's army died during the long night.
A lot of them.
Jon's army as well, and that they would have no choice, knowing that the Golden Company had entered the fray, knowing about Euron's Iron Fleet, etc. And they would have to
need those second
reinforce,
sons.
Call in Yara, bring Dario and the second sons, etc., etc. Forgive or execute the Glovers. On the list goes. But the answer turned out to be that fewer people died than we thought.
50%. We've lost 50% of our army. Man, it didn't look like that.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like 100% of the Dothraki.
So now the forces are distressingly even. Again, that's part of the pacing, the plotting, because they just, despite having Sansa, be the voice of reason and say, people need time to heal, they need time to rest, let's hold on, let's wait. Rhaegal obviously needed time to rest. That was just one more way to get Dany on those ships heading toward Dragonstone and ultimately Euron's attack sooner.
Yeah, it's very interesting in that regard. I've been on record about this, like saying that I think that, a lot of the decisions that, a lot of the way that the story is unfolded since the end of season 6 is clearly the desire to make Dany to do just what they're doing now, which is have her on an even footing with Cersei.
Right.
So that, you feel that there's some drama there in the fight. And I think, whether you are into that or not will kind of inform how you feel about a lot of this stuff. But like, there's so many things. It's crazy to think about the amount of things that Dany could do. Like Harrenhal, nobody lives there now. Like, why don't you set up headquarters there, call an army to you, and then just wait until, just lay siege to King's Landing and hang out. And draw, like, there's not a lot of people that really like Cersei. It's like the kind of,
right.
I think a thing that, you heard a lot of people say, well, the magic's gone now, we're going to get back to the politics. One, I think it's clear that 3 episodes is not enough time to really delve into the politics.
Correct.
Like things like the Red Wedding and all these like incredible shocking moments unfolded over long period of time.
Yes.
With Tywin writing letters and then receiving letters.
All the letters.
And then,
Think how long it took between Mance saying he was going to light the fire to when Mance lit the fire.
Crazy.
Think about that.
And so to now kind of like, so essentially it's like, okay, magic's gone, but we also like don't have the politics. And I think that's kind of disappointing. Let's see. Facebook. Ooh. Let's see. How about this one? Does the sheer memeability of Cersei possibly dying in an episode airing on Mother's Day make it inevitable?
Oh, goodness,
I
dark.
know, that is incredibly dark. I had not considered that.
Am I remembering correctly? I might not be. Did the Tywin death occur on Father's Day weekend? I think it did.
That's, wow. HBO really
Dark.
really has a calendar.
It feels like there's no way Cersei makes it out of this episode alive, right? Because
you have to, if she's in the sixth episode, then that needs to be the one where the future of the realm is hashed out.
That's the Jon Dany fallout and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out what that wheel is, if there is a wheel.
Yeah, there's going to be, I mean, regardless of what you think about the quality of this last episode or the season, I think that Game of Thrones has been as memeable as ever.
Oh,
and will continue to be memeable.
Oh, yeah. Those brand faces aren't going anywhere.
My favorite one is still Dany from the Sansa meeting.
I have to say, Emilia Clarke's facial expressions this season have been absolutely incredible.
She's been great this season.
Really wonderful.
She's been great. Also, like the like when they kill Missandei, and she's just like,
yes. She's showing a lot. Though again, she has to show a lot because there's not time there for us to explore the emotion in any way other than a zoomed in
that's right.
shot of the snarl.
Very tough.
But the snarl is there and it is compelling.
From Twitter, Anders asks, is Dany's best bet to ride Drogon too high for the Scorpions and drop in similar to Harrenhal, or espionage and small strikes for best way to win? This is great. You know, like, so what Anders is referring to is when Aegon was having his invasion back in the day, Aegon the Conqueror, he rode out against Harren the Black, King Harren the Black, who was an Ironborn king who ruled in the Riverlands, was extremely brutal, nobody liked him, and he built the castle of Harrenhal, which was just this massively, massively, massively huge castle, huge walls, huge towers, like, I forget the number of fireplaces in the Great Hall, like just a crazy large castle with stores of food where you could like ride out a siege for many, 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 many years.
Right.
Bankrupted the Riverlands in order to build this stuff with like slave labor, and it had just been completed when Aegon had made his invasion. Tough timing. And so Aegon is out there conquering, and is like, Harren the Black, here's my offer to you. Like, you can keep your lands and stuff, but you need to kneel to me. And he's like, no, I'm going to hang out in my incredibly huge castle that's invulnerable. And, here's two middle fingers. What's up? I'm going to hang out in here with my sons. So then Aegon, like, flew very high up and then just dropped straight down, like, basically onto the castle, and then just burned it, melted it, the whole thing.
Roasted them in there like an oven.
Like an oven. I think that, yes, Dany should, instead of like driving straight at the Scorpions, I think going up so that they can't actually tilt all the way up, and then coming straight down or attacking from the back of them where they didn't have Scorpions on the back.
She should at no point be in range of the Scorpion or the front of
Be out of range of them. That's one. That'd be my first tip.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So in the trailer, the mini preview for episode 5, which, no lines of dialogue, just some visuals. Some of the shots that we've seen, we've not been in King's Landing much. There appear to be a lot of barrels that are a part of Cersei's defenses.
Wine?
Maybe it's wine. Who's ready for the celebration? Maybe it's your standard pitch. Could Cersei be anticipating the Dragonfire strike, using wildfire one more time, and saying, if she takes me down or anything, anyone with me, I will ensure that she goes down as the Mad Queen who burned
Yeah, I like that.
city.
I like that a lot. Certainly, the fact that she's gathering the populace of the city to her into the Red Keep shows that she is more than willing to play this kind of information warfare game.
She doesn't care about those people at all.
Where she's, she's willing to let Dany take the risk and the blame of being brutal while painting herself as someone like merciful. I think that in itself highlights the kind of failure of Dany to play this political game. Like, it's wild to me that Stannis is the only guy out there who dropped pamphlets, who was like, hey, these kids are the children of incest and stuff and all that stuff. Like, Dany should just, printing press should be working overtime, sending out ravens, talking about like how bad they are. Her brother works with me now. That's how crappy Cersei is. He's like helping me.
To your point, though, she and they basically acknowledge the possibility that Cersei will refuse to allow the people of the realm to accept that Dany and Jon saved them from this threat in the north,
right.
from the Night King. Which we have to remember, most people still don't know that threat was real. Right. Still don't believe it. Like, the information campaign has not been deployed.
She has a dragon. Just write up a bunch of scrolls, fill a bag with it, fly over the city, and just like drop them.
That's good. Use Drogon for the paper route instead of battle. Keep him safe.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
That way you're not
it.
like riding him at scorpions with your coffee cup. Anyway, I'm fine. Let's see.
More?
Yeah, let's do a couple more. How about the Duke? What are we more likely to see next episode? A Tyrion redemption? Does he need to be redeemed? A Varys betrayal, a Chekhov Golden Company, or all of the above? I think certainly we get a Varys betrayal. He's betraying right now.
Yes, that's a given.
He basically spoke treason into existence and then at the end of the conversation said, and I will now go do treason. Good day, sir.
I was glad, actually, that the show called back to the exchange between Varys and Dany from season 7, where he said to her, they swore to each other, basically, that they would speak openly in a moment like that. And he did, though he didn't quite go so far as to say, I think you're unfit to rule, and I'm trying to usurp you before you can usurp Cersei. Left some of the details out. I think the Varys betrayal going public in some way is a given, and that Dany will execute him.
And by the way, rightly so. I hate to, listen, I think Dany, I'm on the record as saying Dany's getting slightly a bad rap, but if she has to execute Varys, the guy's out here being like, let's change horses.
This gets back to how we opened, but the show now has positioned itself where it has to go from slightly bad rap to they had no choice.
Right.
In the span of
2 episodes.
An hour and a half, it can't be the last thing that happens in the finale. It has to happen next week or early in the finale.
Tyrion is the interesting one because as we talked about on Talk the Thrones, that conversation that Varys and Tyrion have, that's not a conversation where Tyrion can walk away from it and be like, I'm fine. My position is you make your decision there. Varys is saying outright, I am going to betray Cersei. You either say nothing, in which case you're fine with that, and you are therefore an accessory to treason, or you drop the dime on him because you believe in what Dany is doing. And the fact that he didn't, I think, speaks volumes.
Right.
I guess, he's keeping his options open. Let me see if I can turn her towards the light one last time as we go and talk to my sister at my behest. Once again.
Maybe that will be what happens. Maybe he will drop the dime, implore Dany as almost like a test of the exact thing they're talking about to show wisdom and courage, but also mercy. And that if she then burns Varys alive, say, that will be what causes Tyrion to snap. Because if Tyrion and Jon are going to turn on Dany, something has to happen so that leaves them both no choice.
Yeah.
For viewers to accept it.
I agree. The thing is, if she burns Varys alive, is that better or worse than, chopping his... Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God!
Chopping his head off.
Are you okay?
All right.
It was bound to happen at some point.
Is that better or worse than chopping his head off? You know what I mean? I think we both are in agreement that Varys at this point, And there's no ruler in Westeros or anywhere else in this history of this story, in the books or the show, that would not execute their advisor who was openly working against them. They would all do it. The wisest, the worst of them, all of them would do it. So I think it'd be interesting to see.
Even Jon has said, I've executed men who disobeyed me.
He executed he hung a child.
Well,
He hung a boy.
younger than Bran.
Younger than Brad.
To be fair, Ollie sucked.
Ollie did suck. Okay, well, this has been fun.
Wow, bad beat for Ollie at the end here.
Bad beat for Ollie. Thank you for watching Ask the Maester, where every Tuesday, only 2 more of these left, every Tuesday at noon Pacific, we get together, you, me, Mallory, Rubin, and talk about Game of Thrones. We answer your questions about the episode and the series in general. It's been wonderful. Thank you for joining us here, and we'll see you next week, and also Sunday, and on theringer.com, a great website.